Hi, both. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are talking today about influencing others and the learning and experience you've had around that from the Changing Lives programme. And so I've got Graeme Dale here today and McRobbie, both from Sport Aberdeen, to talk to us about some of their experience around that. So I've got a few questions for the two of you today. The first thing I wanted to just start with is to ask you about the main stakeholders or decision makers that you've been working with in recent years around the Changing Lives agenda. So working with people to think about sport intentionally as a vehicle for wider change for people. Who have been the main stakeholders and decision makers in that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the main ones has been Sport Scotland, and we were successful with getting funding around about the kind of changing lives approach, the equality, diversity, and inclusion approach a few years ago. So they've been one of the main ones. We've also worked with Aberdeen City Council, our local authority, particularly strongly with our education department, but we also work really closely with the social work department as well. And then lots of different third sector organisations, really through, um, you know, we're heavily involved around about community planning, local outcome improvement plan, and that's opened up different avenues to different organisations that are really different to us. And they're not sports, but they're working in the communities. They're working with groups that we want to work with, and that's been a really good way to get these new partnerships and to really build on the work that we want to do and seeing what it is they're doing and how we can come in and be that valued partner to the work that's going on and really helping communities and individuals.
Brilliant. I know that this is one of the areas that people can really struggle with, which is to try and to work with others to help them understand or get the idea that sport can be more than participation and performance and so on. So I was hoping you could tell us about your top three lessons or bits of advice that you would give to someone that was trying to influence others around this agenda.
Yeah, I think for myself, what I notice within Sport Aberdeen is the fact that I think we think creatively, and one of our core values is innovation. So it is thinking outside the box, and I guess being okay with trying something different, and that could be with the stakeholders, the partners that we're working with, but also in how we navigate all of the different priorities locally and
Yeah.
nationally within that. But I am a firm believer that someone has to make a change to see that change happen, and we are ultimately the experts in our field, so we have to champion what we do. And a lot of the times, what we see as our basics is actually the wow moments for other people. So we have to like constantly and consistently be spreading those messages that we might have as our bread and butter, but actually for others it isn't.
Yeah, because I know you've talked before about making sure that you cover those basics with people, so not to make assumptions that they know the value of sport in that kind of way as well. So there's a big lesson there around that innovation and not making assumptions, which is great. Any other lessons or tips for people?
Yeah, I think when we're speaking to others, try and get a bit of an understanding for their language and what it is they're looking for. And we've seen that, over the years, working with education and schools and what their objectives, what their outcomes are, and just tailoring what we're saying. We're not actually changing what it is that we are doing, but we're making it so that it's easily understandable and it fits into other people's priorities. And I think that can be quite important as well, because that really helps to get you in the door and have those conversations, and they can really see the benefit of what we are potentially bringing and other organisations like ourselves from this area, this sector.
Okay, brilliant. Anything else? Have we got a third
I
tip
think for
for
me
people?
it is that looking at the importance of building relationships and that trust that goes with it. And that's across all levels, and as Graeme mentioned, being a partner of choice within that.
Yeah.
But it's about understanding that we're all human, we've all got a shared outcome, shared goal, and it doesn't matter which, I guess, organization you're sat within. we are actually all striving for the same thing. So yeah, we do sometimes have to adapt our languages or anything like that within it, but ultimately we are all trying to reach the same outcome. And in order for us to play our part in that, we have to be a trusted partner. We have to be able to turn up, do what we say we're going to do, and not just talk about it, but also be honest, because we do all know that we've got challenges around resource or competing priorities. So it's also the trust in being able to say, actually, yes, we want to play our part in this, but we need support to do that, or actually now's not the time because we want to do it well. And I think that's something which we're all wanting to achieve the best outcomes, but sometimes the way in which you go about that, sometimes you do have to actually take that step back and say, not yet. And that's where the trust does get built and developed, I would say.
Brilliant. Anything else on that, Graeme?
I think just as well, another point really, a lot of organisations within this sector, if it's the sports sector, are actually pretty good at working in partnerships. You know, it's something that we tend to naturally be able to do. And again, it's not really, you know, not everyone's like that. So we do have a kind of natural advantage with that. We're quite agile, we're quite nimble. We can look and see new angles that we can work with others. So it's not forgetting that, you know, we take strengths that others don't have into these areas of work and into these discussions with others. So I think, you know, we should be pretty proud of that, and we should, as a sector, be able to really show our worth that way.
Yeah, brilliant. I really like that, and I think that'll resonate with a lot of other people in this space. So you've talked about a few things there about innovation. You've talked about the need to not make assumptions about what people know about the work that you do. That alignment piece around language, common goals, and so on that you've talked about. And then finally, I love that idea of being the partner of choice. So through the work that you do, the way you show up, connecting with people, working to those common goals, that makes an awful lot of sense. So that's great, really good advice. Just as a final question, can you tell me what you feel has been the biggest success in terms of influencing others? So if you think about where you are now compared with where you were in the past, in that relationship, what's been your biggest success around influencing others?
You want to go?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest success is actually the consistency, and that can be the consistency of personnel, but we're actually not the loudest voice for what we do. It's the trust that other partners have got for us, and they advocate for the work that we do. So we broaden the reach of our programmes and outcomes through the voices of other people for the most part. And that has a far wider reach and impact than anything we can do in isolation.
Yeah, I mean, what's the biggest success? Sometimes it's a little bit of success, but other people speaking about that. So
Yeah.
hopefully, and it seems to be borne out by the way that other organisations will come to us, we're viewed as that trusted partner. We're viewed as an organisation that will do what it says it's going to do, is good to work with, and that starts to build. You know, just
Yeah.
a little bit for the first time, and then more people hear about it, and it starts to get bigger, and it almost becomes easier, because there is that. We're not always having to go out and search for partners. Others are coming to us and saying, I've heard, and we all, you know, we work in environments where it's quite a small city, it's quite a small local authority where people know people, and that spreads. You know, it's the I would say it's the grapevine, but I spoke to a younger member of staff recently, and I said about the grapevine, and they looked at me really blankly and said, "What's that?" So yeah, it's about that, just that word of mouth that can spread quite organically and can be really beneficial.
Yeah, and that's a lovely way to measure your own success, isn't it? When you hear your messaging coming back to you or other people talking about what you do, that sounds like you've won over hearts and minds, which was what I wanted to explore with you. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today, both of you. It's been really good to speak with you.
Thank you.